Hello everyone, my name is 8-Bit Preston and welcome to Honest Reviews, the show where I take a game and I review it without the bullshit and I give you my honest opinion on it. In today's episode, I'm going to be covering a game that's very special to me and many other people, and that is Final Fantasy VII. This game, it basically runs in my family. It started on the PS1 with my uncle and my granddad playing it together, and I played it with my granddad about a year ago. We finished it together. It was the time of my life, and I thought, you know what, the remake comes out in March, just in time for my birthday, and the Switch port came out on my birthday as well, so it felt special, but obviously it's just a coincidence. But yeah, I thought, why not review this game now, just in time for the remake, so obviously I can make videos on the game, blah 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 blah, and etc etc, because I'll just outright say it now, I love this game to death. It's amazing. I'm not going to give it a bad score or anything, so let's just nosedive into this game and see why this is my favourite game of all time. The first thing you see after selecting new game is a black starry sky, and this rotates around the screen for about 40 seconds until it eventually transitions to showing us the face of a character. We obviously know they're important because they're getting the spotlight. So that leaves us to wonder, who is this character? Why is this intro themed around space? It's a very ominous and basically mysterious introduction that really gets the player to play on. It really gets them to wonder, who is this and why is this? It gives us a lot of questions and they are very soon answered. So the intro to this game instantly is very, very good because obviously it gets us thinking and it gets us wanting to play on. But enough of praising this intro, let's talk about when the game actually begins. We obviously get to see an introduction to some of the characters we'll be seeing throughout the game, which were 3 short-lived characters, one of the main characters, and then the main character, Cloud Strife, jumps off the train. And this is basic indication that you know who you're playing as, simply because of how he jumps off the train and how the camera's more focused on him. That's how you know who you are. And it just gets you wondering instantly, who is he? Why is his hair so epic? Why is his outfit so epic? Why is his sword so epic? And a lot of other epic stuff. So you'll be thrown into this random encounter with 2 soldiers, and you just basically kill him instantly. It's quite easy, but it gets you to terms with the turn-based combat and how it will basically work. And it's just really nice, really. It's just a good, fast introduction, doesn't waste any time, and just throws you straight into the deep end. Anyways, enough dilly-dallying, let's talk about the story. So I'm not going to spoil any of the story here. I mean, obviously you can see gameplay, but I'm going to try not to spoil anything. I'm going to try to spoil as little as possible. So, Final Fantasy VII follows the story of a mercenary Cloud Strife who is hired by the eco-terrorist group Avalanche, led by Barret Wallace, to help fight the mega corporation Shinra Electric Power Company, who attempts to drain the planet's lifeblood as an energy source to further their profits. And that is basically how the game starts. It's obviously, that is basically as simple as the plot will get, but after about 3-4 hours into the game, you start hearing this name repeated and repeated: Sephiroth, Sephiroth this, Sephiroth that, until you eventually come face to face with, well, not face to face with him, but you eventually come to terms that he exists, he is a thing, and that he is now the focus. You're still a part of Avalanche with Barret Wallace and the crew, yes, but now your attention has shifted towards Sephiroth and not Shinra. And this is a great turn because it shifts the story perspective. Oh, also that's Ricardo in that bathtub, confirmed. But it just shifts the perspective really well because we go from basically teaching people playing the game in a subtle message to save our planet rather than to be greedy. And obviously because it's a fantasy game and a video game, anything can happen. It's basically just, it teaches us that there is great evil out there other than just big companies, but they are the prime evil to mortal human beings such as ourselves. And it's a really clever message that they pass on because obviously it is important, especially in today's modern world where we're predicted to be dead in less than 100 years due to our own actions, which is pretty scary, to be honest. It means today's generation's children won't be able to live their lives as they want to, but we just got to start changing. And it's nice how this game spreads the message 20 years before the crisis occurs on Earth. Our Earth. So I want to take a brief moment to talk about these characters. So the main character, we obviously have Cloud Strife. Cloud is quite emo, he's got a shit memory, he's got some amazing hair, by the way. I'm very envious of his hair. He's got a giant ass sword, he has an epic personality, until you play through the game and find out. No spoilers. Well, for now anyway. I might dive into spoilers later and give a warning. But Cloud is a cool dude, essentially. He's a cool dude. You fall in love with him quite quickly. There's Barrett Wallace, who is very angry with Shinra because Shinra took away basically Barrett's his home, his family. Shinra is responsible for making Barrett the way he is, and it's a good motive for Barrett, you know, revenge, but revenge for what's right as well as for his own needs. You know, he wants revenge on Shinra for his family, but he wants to save the planet as well. So it's a good motive for him. But then there's also Tifa Lockhart, Cloud's childhood best friend, you'd say? Yeah, I'd say best friend. They're very close with each other. They've been together for a very long time. But, you know, Cloud did disappear one day to go to Soldier, and then obviously some stuff happened. Eventually they find themselves reunited. You know, Tifa's a sweet character, but then I want to talk about Aerith, or Aerith. It's canonically Aerith, but I'm going to say Aerith because that's what she's called in this game. So Aerith is just the absolute sweetest. She is a gem in this game. She's so adorable. Like, she's a sweet character. She's so selfless, she knows what's right, but she's also so mysterious because she doesn't want to give away who she is. She's a complex character, but in a simple way, and with the way she acts, she's just so cute. Honestly, Aerith is a treasure. She must be kept, you know, in good condition, which I'll talk about that later. But she's just the best. And then they're basically the four main characters up to now. But then we're going to talk about the villain, Sephiroth. Well, before Sephiroth, it's President Shinra, but he soon dies. But Sephiroth. Sephiroth is edgy. He's very edgy. He's got some extremely sexy hair like Cloud does. Like, what is it with these boys and having big hair? Cloud and him are both victims to Mako poisoning due to joining Soldier. Sephiroth has a giant-ass sword like Cloud, but it's not as thick as Cloud's. It's more skinny. It's a Masamune sword, whereas Cloud has the Buster sword. Which is symbolic of soldier honor and soldier first class as well. Sephiroth is the man in the black cape, as he's, you know, recognized throughout the game in early stages, and it's very clear to tell that he hates Cloud, he hates Shinra, and he hates basically everything that isn't Jenova, his mother, in quotation marks, mother. But he's just an extremely great villain, my favorite video game villain of all time. He's amazing, especially in Advent Children, you know, which is the movie follow-up to the game. I swear to God, he's amazing. But that's just Sephiroth. He's just a great villain. And then, obviously, talk about side characters. Well, not side characters because they are party members, but other characters include Yuffie, who's a very bright, optimistic Wutai warrior, which is basically Japan. She is obsessed with materia as well as fighting for what's right in honor of Wutai. There's Vincent Valentine, a vampire type personnel who is hellbent on hiding away because of his past, you know, him being ashamed and such. There's Sid Highwind, Australian, who's extremely funny and loves to swear a lot. Sid's just the greatest. Well, not the greatest, but he's one of the best. There's also Kate Sith, fuck Kate Sith. There's Red 13, a wolf character who's full of wisdom thanks to his grandfather, Bugenhagen. Yes, it's a funny name, I know. But it's, you know, he's a great character as well. So, obviously, this scene that's playing right now is disturbing because this is Cloud, you know, cross-dressing. But this is a scene in the game where they cross-dress to sneak into his mansion to get information out of him. And when they try, you know, when they get the information from him to make him talk, they threaten to chop off his balls, his penis. You know, it's a funny encounter. It's just fun. It's one of the best parts of the game, and I can't wait to see it in the remake. But they're basically the characters. They're fantastic. Every single character in this game is great, apart from Kate Sith, and they're all just full of unique personalities. Okay, so now we're going to talk about gameplay. Gameplay has you walk around these sprite maps. I think they are. You play as obviously characters which are sprites upon a 2D map which has 3D. How am I going to say? 3D collisions basically with invisible walls and such. You walk around these big maps, you discover secrets, collect items. As you go through the story, there's text in a box which you'll read, which gives you the well, how am I going to describe this? It gives you the option, or I should say, I'm confused here because I've not scripted this part. It gives you the ability to make up the characters' voices. You could have Cloud as all dark and emo. You could have Aerith as all cheery and sweet. You could have Barret sounding like Mr. T if you wanted to, because that's who he is often compared to. Because I really do think that was the inspiration for Barret. But it's just great how we have text in the box. I quite like it because it gives us the ability to make up these characters' personalities even more. Obviously, they will be crushed if you did make up a completely different personality in the remake and such, but the remake is non-canon to the original story. It's basically a spin-off, I think. Don't quote me on that one. But gameplay-wise, you'll come into random encounters every now and then to level up and collect items, as well as progress through the story. And these random encounters are great. What happens in these encounters, obviously you'll face against enemies in turn-based combat, using materia for different abilities, using your weapons for different sorts of attacks, and it's just a lot of great fun. I don't care what people say, I never get tired of hearing the battle theme. And that's basically the gameplay, to be honest with you. You go through maps and do a lot of fighting, and it's great, it works. Okay, quick warning, we will be entering spoiler territory for the rest of the video. If this does affect you, then please stop watching now, because I'm going to give you my score, and then you guys can just go away and do whatever you want, because I don't want you guys to spoil the game for yourselves if you're interested in playing. But my final score for Final Fantasy VII is, of course, a 10 out of 10. It's fucking amazing. It's the best game ever made, simply because of its emotion, its character, its worlds, its themes, its setting, its soundtrack. Everything about this game to me is blissful, and I'm amazed that there hasn't been a better game to come out in 20 years. So, Square Enix, my hat is off to you, and let's continue with the review. So disc 1 is the longest of the 3 discs, and for the rest of it, basically some pretty much irrelevant shit happens up until you arrive at the Temple of the Ancients, and blah blah blah. But then you come to this place, which is where things start to get very, very fucking emotional, okay? So Cloud climbs up these stairs, as you can see, shaking his head, and his vision's going red and whatnot. So he approaches Aerith, the Buster Sword is drawn, and the player is probably wondering what the fuck is he doing. And as you can see here, he's about to fucking murder Aerith. He's trying to force himself out of it, or say he's stretching up, but he's about to murder Aerith. And if it wasn't for the help of his party members, Cloud would have fucking sliced her in half. And obviously this is happening because he's being mind controlled by Sephiroth, who in the area we don't know he's here until now. And I'm going to cut the music just to show you guys this scene. Now, as you can see, because his mind control with Cloud failed, he straight up murders Aerith by himself. And if you're paying attention to my voice, yes, I'm crying. I don't care how many times I see this scene, yeah, it does make me cry. Because Aerith is a fucking amazing character, and just the bond these two have, everything that just goes on in this scene, it makes me tear up every time. You guys shouldn't, you know, be concerned if you cried on your first time, because I know I certainly did. But basically everyone cried to this scene. Basically every Let's Player. Yeah. So, I'm crying. Oh god. Yeah, Sephiroth is a bastard of a villain. He's the best villain in gaming history. So that's that. Yeah, moving on. So moving on from the emotion of the end of Disc 1, we enter Disc 2, which basically is very... well, Disc 1, the end of Disc 1 is probably one of the more important scenes of the game, and Disc 2 just has you climb the Northern Cave, or should I climb to the Northern Cave, to see the weapons awaken, and to see Cloud just turn disabled. Yes, he just gets disabled, essentially. And at the end of Disc 2, you just go inside of the live stream with Cloud to get his memory back to who he actually is. Which, if you guys don't know, Cloud's best friend is Zack Fur. He was in Soldier with him, and Zack Fur is just the greatest video game character of all time. That's why Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is my second favourite game of all time. It's only my second because it doesn't have as much depth as this game does, and its villain is just meh. But other than that, yeah, it's amazing on the other hand, but you know. Anyways, continuing. So, you find out who Cloud really is, as does the party members. He apologises. Cloud and Tifa bang underneath Cid's airship, the Highwind, and then Disc 3 basically begins. That is Disc 2. Disc 2 is very short, but it's not Disc 3 is the shortest. But Disc 2 is probably the hardest because of the challenges you go through and fighting the weapons, but that is part of Disc 3 as well as Disc 2, so I can't say Disc 2 is the hardest because it does continue over to Disc 3, but Disc 2 is basically just filler content. So the third disc finally begins, the finale of the game, the shortest disc of the game, where we fight Sephiroth once and for all. So after the party forms and they're all honest with each other now, they're all best friends, blah blah blah, we finally head off to the Northern Cave with everyone, and we go to take down Sephiroth and Jenova. So upon basic arrival into Disc 3, the crew decide to, well, they don't decide to, it's mandatory, they head down to the core of the planet through the Northern Cave. And this is a very long gauntlet, you know, style type thing. You go through a long level with a lot of enemies and a lot of grinding to do, but by the time you get to the end, it's all worth it, because it all led up to this part and you couldn't be more excited. The second you get out of the dungeon, you're ecstatic, you're over the moon, and you are that much closer to fighting Sephiroth. And it's an amazing feeling when you reach the core of the planet. You know when you're there, you just know it. And it's just a great feeling, because you know you're about to finish the game, you know you're about to kill Sephiroth, and you know you're about to be in for a great time. It's a lot of hype, it's a lot of great journey, and everything that accompanies you throughout it, whether that be the soundtrack, the secrets, the exploration, everything like that is amazing. So as the party descends throughout the dungeon, which is basically the journey to the core of the planet, you go through these like mini bosses. They're very challenging fights. It's understandable if you do lose quite a lot of health here, but you should get through them relatively quickly if you have the correct materia and the correct, party balance, blah blah blah, this that. It's quite enjoyable to get to the bottom, but once you do reach the bottom and everything starts to go ominous and dark, you will face off against Jenova in her purest form, which is basically some mad alien thing with these tendrils that like to spank you as if she is your mother. It's very strange, yes, but the game is called Final Fantasy, you have to remember that. I know it's not set to be a fantasy game with the beginning and whatnot, but yes, at the core of this game, it is a fantasy game. So, yeah, there's Jenova, you kill her, it's an easy fight, but then you move on to Sephiroth himself. Our crew eventually find themselves at the heart of the planet where they encounter Sephiroth. He is basically trapping them and making them unable to move by their own will. He is in control of them at this point. But because Cloud realizes that the light behind him is holy, which is Urus prayer, it gives them power to break out of his spell and fight him as he transforms into a god. A literal god. Now, this is only the birth of a god. You see what I did there? This is only the birth of a god. This is Bizarro Sephiroth, his first form. And it's quite a long fight. It's a lot longer than the final boss and harder than the final boss itself, but it's basically phase 1. And while it's a good fight, it's quite difficult. It's, you know, all this, all that. It is quite annoying as well, but this shows us the absolute power of this madman. But after that, it begins. And here we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the final boss of Final Fantasy VII, Seifer Sephiroth. And Jesus Christ, dude, this is a fucking amazing fight. The scenery is amazing, the boss design is great, his attacks are great, they're all powerful. He does have quite a lot of health, but the battle is usually over really quickly because of how slow his attacks are and how powerful you probably are by this stage, which is quite disappointing that it isn't a hard fight. But if you don't have that, you know, if your characters aren't that powerful, then it will last a long time. But he does cast a really cool attack at one point called Supernova, where he just destroys the solar system just to wipe out 3 people. It shows the dedication of this guy, and the boss music as well. Jesus fuck, I'm pretty sure everyone's heard One Winged Angel at one point, whether that be the original version, Advent Children, whatever. We all know how infamous this song is and how great it is as a final boss theme. But it is very anticlimactic for what the boss actually is. So if you can't tell by that attack, Sephiroth is a mad lad and he should not be challenged unless you are truly, you know, if you're strong enough to take him down like Cloud really is. But eventually the battle does come to an end because of how easy it is, but obviously all good things come to an end. So the battle ends, but the battle between Cloud and Sephiroth isn't. So Sephiroth decides to take the battle to Cloud's mind, Cloud's most vulnerable position. But because Cloud is mentally prepared for this, and he ultimately knows Sephiroth is still alive, Cloud is able to finish him off with an Omni Slash in his mind, and erase Sephiroth from his mind and as a memory for good. Well, for now, anyways. Now, despite the threat of Sephiroth being gone, the meteor that he summoned still is out there, and it is right next to Midgar. It is about to destroy basically half of the planet. And this is a big deal, considering we've just been through all of that to kill Sephiroth, but forgot about Meteor. But all hope isn't lost, because remember this shot from the start of the game about Aeris? Yep, it all becomes important now. Aeris from the dead sends out her prayer Holy and the livestream to combat the meteor and stop it from destroying the world. And it really just goes to show how much of a great team these guys make and how much sacrifice Aeris had to make to save the world. None of these characters will ever be forgotten, neither will this story. The game will live on for many years to come, as it is absolutely fantastic, and I cannot wait for the remake. Final Fantasy VII is art. Final Fantasy VII is my life, essentially, at this point. Final Fantasy VII is the greatest piece of fiction ever written, and it is the greatest video game ever made, period. I've been 8-Bit Preston, everyone. Thank you all for watching my honest reviews on Final Fantasy VII. And now, time to put this game back on the shelf. And that, my friends, is the end of honest reviews for Final Fantasy VII. Now, as you can probably tell from this review, yes, this is my favourite game of all time. So much so I bothered to, have the effort to get it on PlayStation, format disc, and it's my only copy of a PlayStation format disc. That is literally how much I love this game. So much so that even the movies, Advent Children, I have both editions of them, that being the original Advent Children on DVD, but the two disc special, as well as Advent Children Complete, the more so extended cut of the film and the better edition of the film, in my opinion. I could do a review of these two one day if you want me to. But that's it for my review on Final Fantasy VII. I absolutely adore this game to pieces, and I cannot wait for the remake, as I will more than definitely be reviewing the remake on its release. So, my friends, what will the next Honest review be? A review that will take me back to a place where Honest Reviews basically began. Not Sonic Generations, no. That was the first ever Honest Reviews, but I'm quite happy with that for now. Rather, I'll be going over a game that has quite frankly haunted me throughout my childhood, and I recently put it to bed in a long play and as an actual game, but now it's time to review it again. Finding Nemo on the PlayStation 2. The reason I'm going to review this game is because I don't think my original review holds up at all. The original review was lazy, I didn't know what I was talking about, and I give the game an unjust score. And for extra, extra comparison, I'm going to be reviewing the GameCube version of the game as well. So, it's, they're the same game, but they perform differently. So, I'll be reviewing the PlayStation 2 mainly, and I'll talk about the GameCube as well as I go through it. So, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the review as much as I did, making it. And I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, and peace out.